Hello and welcome to Justin's Lighthouse, a live and uncut podcast. We are your hosts, Dr. Miles Lewis and my beautiful wife. We call her Maria with the pretty eyes, Tina Lewis.
Thank you.
Hope everybody's doing good today.
Yes. It was a good day, huh?
Well,
Kind of until the end.
it's been a good day, but how's your mouth?
It's a lot better. It's a lot better. I mean, I really thought I was going to have some serious issues. And I'm so glad that the doctor's just right around the corner and we could get that antibiotic and get that steroid shot.
That worked out.
Yeah.
The day before the big dental appointment, and she gets an abscess.
It's bad.
But by this time tomorrow, it'll be all over.
It'll be all over.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things. This is our new podcast for us. We're going to give you a little background. Tina and I have operated and still do a substance abuse and mental health program. It is a residential program called Justin's Lighthouse for the last 19 years. We are also a married couple who is in recovery. We both are former addicts, and we've been in recovery now for going on 2 decades, and we've operated Justin's Lighthouse recovery program almost that long. We do things a little bit differently, and we have a really high success rate because not because we do anything different, but actually because we do follow common sense and we follow science. And in a long-term program, we've got the time to sort through everything. So when our people leave, when our graduates transition back home after spending typically 6 months to a year is actually not uncommon at all. Most people come here for a year. But when you're talking about someone who's been in their addiction for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they've lost everything. They've spent the last 5 years producing absolutely nothing in society, living off their families, living off the government, living off shelters. Investing 1 year of their life is nothing.
Well, when you say that out loud, to us, it's nothing. But sometimes when you first talk to them, they're like, a year? That's so long. And then when I say, well, how long have you been using drugs? They're like, well, since I was 16. I said, that's so long. So
Right.
I really tell them, a year's nothing. Like you said, it is
Right.
absolutely nothing to give yourself, the time to go, hey, my life is really messed up and I don't know how to deal with it. So I'm going to have to do something different. So after you explain to them, the difference between them being in their addiction for years and 2 decades at a time versus a year of their time just to get better, they kind of start going, wow, let me think about that. There might be something to that.
It
Maybe it's
starts
not
to
so
make
bad.
sense.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's wrong with the recovery field. People, well, we live in a society now where everything's just faster.
Right.
We want it now. We want this instant gratification. Of course, addicts and alcoholics have that defect in spades. We want our problem solved right now. We don't want to give a lot of effort to it. We just want tomorrow to be better. And we look to our family, if my mom would just, if my dad would just, if my boss would just, if my wife would just, if my ex would just, what AA would refer to as the if-onlys. If only everybody else would just jump to my aid, then I could finally have the life that I want, which is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. And, one of the things that, unfortunately, the alcoholic brain suffers from tremendous denial. And that's why it usually takes a person about 5 tries before they finally sustain lasting recovery. Because in the beginning, they're thinking, quick, just da-da-da-da, but it's not enough time to do anything. I actually read this statistic the other day, and it's the average person or the average alcoholic or addict that is seeking help actually goes to a minimum of 5 different rehab centers before finally achieving a lasting recovery. And the rehabs that they're going to is just, quick little 28-day, 30-day deal, and which is a joke. What needs to happen, the most important element of achieving lasting recovery is time and space. Time to slow down, time to face yourself, time to move past old hurts, heal old traumas. And in a short-term clinical program, it's the opposite of that. It is literally from the minute you check in, the clock is ticking. Mm-hmm. Tick, 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 tick. Got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, got to do that. Oh, yeah, we know that you're in detox, sir, but you got to go to this group, you got to do this, you got to da. And research shows that a patient in an average 30-day program spends the first 2 weeks obviously detoxing, and that's not even a full detox, but it takes them 2 weeks to feel better. The third week of that 30-day period is spent trying to tune in a little bit and absorb a little bit of what they're learning, and then the fourth week of that period is spent in anxiety, worrying, anxious about what they're going to do when they leave in 7 days. And so out of a 30-day program, a person maybe receives 5 to 7 days of information. And then it's right back to where they came from. So no change has occurred. And science shows us that it takes 12 to 18 months for the alcoholic brain to even heal, addict brain too. And yet... Mm-hmm. And yet we're part of a system that has this unbelievably unrealistic expectation that whatever, when our adult child, Bobby, 25-year-old male, has just can't stay sober. His second wife is leaving him. He doesn't spend any time with his kids. He can't hold a job, but we're going to send him to this 30-day place and have really high expectations. And then, of course, 30 days of not using or drinking, a person is going to look a little bit better. They're going to feel a little bit better. Only it's a delusion. It's an illusion. The family thinks, oh, my goodness, Bobby looks great. And Bobby's thinking, oh, man, this is awesome, man. I got this. And then, he stops at the liquor store on the way home from rehab. Or he's high within a week or two. And that's one of the things that we really want to keep addressing in this podcast. That was the primary reason we want to start it. We want to start shattering some of these false ideas. I mean, people are dying. There's another. Yeah. I gave this statistic earlier. That it takes the average alcoholic or addict 5 attempts before they finally achieve lasting recovery. Well, here's the thing. Now think about this for a minute. 40% of those die before they ever make it through 5 attempts. That's just the ones that actually survive in their addiction long enough to get in 5 different rehabs. That's, hey, we're going to go to, I'm going to go to this one place in California I heard about because they got a swimming pool, and I'm going to go to this one place in Florida because I heard they got free massages, and then when that didn't work out, I heard there was this other place in wherever, Pittsburgh, and they got whatever, they go hiking, so I'm going to go there. And, people are choosing rehabs for all the wrong reasons and dying by the tens of thousands. And, we deal with this not only, I was in my addiction for probably 20 years, where our name comes from. Justin's Lighthouse is named after my younger brother who died in his addiction at the beginning of this opioid thing back in 1999 when opioids was just really starting to get just off the chart. I also grew up with an alcoholic father, and we have been on the other side of addiction for the last 2 decades. We have seen this thing and experienced this thing from every single angle, and it is disgusting. I don't know if maybe it's going to upset some people. You got some clinicians out there working in 28-day clinical programs who may want to debate, and that's fine. Please call me because I will debate you. You know it's not working. We know it's not working. The federal numbers show that it's not working. 12% success rate is not working. Longer term programs, I'm not trying to do an ad or anything, but longer term programs, for obvious reasons, always produce higher results. Think about this, if your loved one had cancer and the whole family gets together and, oh my gosh, this is serious and we need to do something about it, and everybody comes together and, well, I'll help with the cost and I'll help with transportation and I'll help with this, and everybody's coming together, not one person in that group would say, well, I think he only needs to do 30 days. Let's just do 30 days of cancer treatment. Let's do that because he's got to get back to work. And no, everybody would come together and take kids if they needed to, help supplement income if they needed to, whatever was necessary to make sure that family member lived and got the proper treatment for that cancer. Well, look at the numbers, because substance abuse, and that includes alcohol. Alcohol is killing just as many people as the opioid epidemic, but nobody talks about that. But substance abuse is killing just as many people, and I haven't seen the latest, like the last 6 months numbers. It could be even more than cancer. But when it comes to when it comes to addiction, everybody is in denial. People don't really think it's going to get them. And I'll tell you from experience, remember I said we come at this from all angles. That's exactly what my family used to say. That's exactly what we used to say. That won't happen to us. We knew people that were dropping like flies. Oh, say, did you hear about so-and-so? Yeah, drunk driving killed him. Or drunk driving killed somebody else.
Yeah.
Or so-and-so died from an overdose. Or so-and-so, oh, that'll never happen to us. Well, it does. It can happen to anybody, and it is happening to anybody. And another statistic, 4 out of 5 families are impacted by addiction. So there's a pretty good likelihood that 90% of anybody that's going to listen to this podcast is directly associated with somebody dealing with a serious addiction. You may not know them personally, but you know someone who knows them personally. So I want to talk about, did I cover the background?
Yeah.
Did we,
yeah, you
we
did
talk
good on
enough
that.
about that? We'll get more into that as we move on. But
I did want to just cover something a little bit about, Justin's Lighthouse is, it's not your typical hospital-like stay either. I remember when I went to treatment, it was in a big building. It was like a big hospital, and it just made me feel so, I missed home for one, and it was just not very personable. And they, it's like they always kept us away from the staff. We couldn't go back to, obviously for obvious reasons, behind their desk or anything like that. But it was just like, oh, you guys are the sick ones. Y'all stay over there on that side of the room.
Yeah.
And, as professionals who, know everything about drugs and addiction, got our papers over here from these universities, we're going to tell y'all how to get off of them. And they knew nothing. My counselor, I remember, told me, can't you just stop using? And I said, you sound just like my mom. If I could just stop using drugs, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you pouring out my heart.
yeah,
We understand what people are going through because we've been there and we've done it, and we can relate to that. When somebody talks about the effects of not having the opiates in your system, the withdrawals, we know what that's like. It's a horrible feeling inside, and you literally feel like dying. But I like that we're able to get to know our clients one-on-one, and a lot of these clients that we have become kind of like family to us because we do spend a lot of time with them. We're not afraid to go take them out for a hamburger and think we're going to be breaking some HIPAA law, or it's not, we're not supposed to do that because office says no, you can't do that type of stuff. But that's how people get better, is just hearing other people's stories. And that's one thing I really, really like about our program. It's in a home. It's in a nice country, beautiful home, and there's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, a great living room, and a great library. We've got about 4 acres out there. We do bonfires outside, and just working out in the yard, spending time with the sun is great for you, especially when you're, early in recovery, detoxing and
nature.
Yeah, you need that stuff, so you're not going to be sitting in a classroom with ceiling, the tiles up in the ceiling and the fluorescent lighting. You're going to actually be in a
Metal
classroom
beds.
You'll be in a classroom that's got nice, comfortable chairs, and you can bring in your Coke, and you're not going to get, kicked out for drinking a Dr. Pepper, and, just
drink
those
a popping group.
those ridiculous things that they, want to go by because they think that type of stuff works. You're going to come in, and if you want to come in and bring a blanket and you want to lay on the couch because you want to be in here, but you just can't keep your eyes open, then you can do that here. You're not going to be shamed and, told you have to go to group. You don't have to do anything. I just want to point that out.
It's a place for healing.
Right.
A real healing, not healing on our time frame.
Right.
Healing on the patient's time frame. And that can be different for a lot of different people. We've had people that couldn't get out of bed for 30 days, their first 30 days. We've had people, and that's fine. We're going to make sure they eat and they sleep and they can participate when they're able and get showers and be comfortable. We'll get a list and we'll run to the store and get all the candy in the world that they want. You want ice cream? You want pizza? What do you want? Because real lasting recovery is achieved through a process.
Right. And
in order to even begin that process, the person has to slow down. So, and I like what you talked about, kind of the, we're not bashing. There's a lot of great people in the recovery field, and there's a lot of people that probably shouldn't be. 40 years ago, 90% of professionals in the recovery field were recovering addicts. Now it's about 30%. So, and that's what Tina was talking about a minute ago. You end up at these short-term clinical programs, and the person, you may be dealing with a 23-year-old college graduate who's got all the right credentials, but they don't really understand addiction. And, if they want to be in that field, that's fine, and I hope they continue to learn, but they'll learn a whole lot more from their patients than they ever did in school.
Right.
We can attest to that. What are some of the things? Tina is our administrator, and so she deals with all the calls all day long and is fantastic. I've heard her talk to families even knowing that these families are not coming here, and she'll spend hours, even days sometimes, calling, back and forth, just to help these people, and you don't get that anyplace else either. You're lucky if you can even get a professional on the phone. You usually get a telemarketer who, or some front office person, and but you'll never get to talk to a counselor. You'll never get to talk to the owner. You'll never get to talk to a director or administrator of the program. And if you did, you're lucky if you get a 30-second phone call. But what's some of the most frustrating or maybe heartbreaking things that you deal with when you're talking to these families? And I know it's we kind of specialize with people who've been to multiple programs before. So by the time they even call us, they've probably failed 4 or 5. Even I think our record was we worked with a guy who'd been to 15 different rehabs and was dying. It was and now he's 10 years sober.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things is just them feeling like they're never going to get better. There's not a solution. But when I share with them how it works and how we listen to other people who are in recovery, we didn't invent this thing called recovery. We just were willing to try something different as well. Mm-hmm. And when we talk to the families, and I tell them this is a time for healing. It's not a time to blame everybody who did what to the client or to their kid or who did something wrong. It's about healing and talking about the pain that they don't talk about and try to just cover up. And this way they can heal their family and have a relationship with each other that they've never had before. And, but it's just they have no hope. That's the saddest thing is that there's no hope for them. So when I get off the phone, like yesterday, I was talking to this lady and, she'd been to 3 different outpatient counselors already in a matter of 2 months, and she just said, "Thank you for giving me some hope." And I said, "Well, that's what I want. I want you to know that you can have hope and you can get better, and it's just going to take time for you to do that." And that's the sad thing is that nobody has hope that their kid's going to get better, their loved one's going to get better. So I would have to say that's one of the saddest things. And then of course the money situation's always an issue because we're all private pay. We don't take insurance.
Insurance won't pay for real programs.
Right. They want to pay for 14 days of recovery or rehab. And then that's it. Then they stick you with the big bill after that. And normal cost for rehab, at least around where we're at in the state of Oklahoma, is about $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
So when our program is unbelievable for the price for the whole year. It's just unbelievable what you get. You get a whole year worth of residential and a year outpatient services. And that also includes getting the family, having help, getting them coming every Thursday night, getting their family counseling and their one-on-one with their loved one eventually and all that. So it's not just the person coming here that's living here that's going to get the recovery and the treatment. It's going to be the whole family.
Yeah, we include the whole family.
Yeah.
In a serious way, in a consistent
Absolutely.
way. We're such a small operation, and I've always kind of hoped throughout the years that eventually God would bring someone into our circle, or maybe even a family, that has fundraising experience.
Yeah.
And, could help us with some manpower to raise funds to create scholarships, because we know that the program works and it could be so beneficial for so many people. And of course, we over the years we've taken care of some scholarships. But we can't, we're a small operation. We can't do that. So anyway, if anybody listening, you got some fundraising experience and you got some time, we'd love to put something together where we could do some fundraising, like big time fundraising. I'm not talking $100, $200. I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars that would actually make it possible for 10 people a year to come through an entire life transforming program.
Yeah.
Including their families. We include ex-spouses if their kids are involved and they're still relevant and it's still they're still on speaking terms and are willing. And a lot of ex-spouses have come to participate.
Yes, they have.
And so anyway, that's our philosophy. We're a family who, we were in our addiction together. We could not get sober together. That doesn't really work. But as we're moving forward, the families that look at this recovery process as a family issue, and everybody makes an effort to look at themselves and make some changes within themselves, just become stronger families. Sometimes there's families, the addict or the alcoholic has burned so many bridges, or for whatever reason, their family's just not interested or isn't able to participate in a recovery process. The addict or alcoholic is still going to get better. But the families that do this together, it's amazing. And I'm not talking, obviously, I don't want to mislead him. The families don't all come and live here. I think you kind of mentioned that. But the identified patient, the addict, the alcoholic, they're the ones that stay here they're checked in, they're admitted, and then families come at least once a week, and then throughout the process we do special private sessions, or we'll do individual sessions with each other member of the family, and we work it in on an outpatient basis. I think trauma is one of the biggest issues that gets overlooked. Of course, in a shorter term program, the person's only, coherent that's our trauma dog, Draco, that's running around our set right now.
It's
in the corner of
it's
the classroom.
thundering, and so he doesn't like thunder. Even though I got his jacket on him, and trying to get him to calm down, he's still it freaks him out. So that's what's going on.
The trauma dog needs a trauma dog during storms. Trauma is so overlooked, and everybody has trauma. We recently did on our Facebook page, Miles K. Lewis on Facebook. Anybody can check that out. We live stream our family group each week, and he's going to knock this thing over.
I'm going to try to see if he'll go outside.
Okay, Tina's going to have to step outside with him, and I'll finish talking. But anyway, you guys can watch the live stream, and there's probably 100 on there. And you can hear feedback. You won't see people in the group. Obviously, we keep their faces off camera, but you can hear their when they offer feedback or share what they're thinking or feeling. But we spend a lot of time on trauma. There's an old adage in recovery field, and if you've been to a clinical program, you've probably heard this, that however, at the age in which the person begins to use or drink, that's the age that their emotional maturity stops developing. And that's actually not true. The truth is trauma comes first. Trauma comes first. So in many accounts, a lot, like in a clinical program, the person, the patient gets addressed as, say, well, I started using when I was 17 years old. Okay, then it's assumed that you probably have the emotional maturity of a 17-year-old, when in reality the person has an emotional maturity of about an 8-year-old. And there's all kinds of things that go into trauma, and I'm not going to get into that in this one, but I will. If that's already confusing you, please look up our Facebook and watch our latest video. Everybody deals with trauma. It doesn't take much to have a traumatic experience, and all that's required is to have any experience where you felt it was beyond your control to do anything about, right? So it could be anything from, seeing your best friend get run over by a bus, or what tends to really get people and stick with people is complex trauma, which is just ongoing or multiple series of, and what you see a lot of in addiction and alcoholism is an ongoing series of disappointments, underachieving, meaning well, intending well, but falling short. And then, of course, everybody does that, but the alcoholic brain, and there's a brain factor going on too, the genetics of it all. The alcoholic interprets those kinds of experiences as shame, from a position of shame. Let's say, kid's playing Little League and he strikes out, in front of, 300 fans, and he's embarrassed and he's humiliated. Well, one type of kid could move past that. And then there's another type of kid that would be completely humiliated by it and never wants to play baseball again. So that's all that it takes for trauma to begin setting into a person's life. And with addiction and alcoholism, when you look back throughout the history of every single alcoholic and addict, there's a series of those kind of experiences that I've just talked about. You're not going to heal that in 28 days or less. It's just not going to happen. And that's why so many people have to go to multiple rehabs to try to get it, and can't do it, end up dying in the process. 5, I think, the average was 5, and then they finally achieve it. Well, how long does it take to go to 5 different rehabs? It could be over a period of 20 years. The person goes to a rehab, and then they start to do better, and then they relapse, and then they're checked out for 3 years, and then they start to do better again, and they go to rehab, and then that's a 20 years of wasted life. And then if the person survives, They're going to the addiction process alone is traumatizing. In a longer term program, all of these areas are able to be dealt with. The emotional hurts, the inability to manage one's own emotions mentally, physically, spiritually, socially, and then of course emotionally. It's all about learning how to live life. The alcoholic addict has been trying to figure out how to live life where there are no problems. In recovery, we learn how to live life where we expect problems, difficulties, but we learn how to handle them. In fact, there's a line in the big book, we will come to know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. And situations that tend to baffle alcoholics and addicts are simply having an experience where they're not getting something that they want. And family members know what I'm talking about, because think about the last time you told your alcoholic loved one no. And then remember what happened next. What happened next was probably World War III. Right? We resist, we go, oh, wait a minute, that's not fair. We increase our level of intensity. We use anger as a weapon, as a tool to manage your response. So, and I know, and of course I did it too. Like I said, I was an addict. And of course addiction, the addictive behavior, and I'm not talking about like the compulsion behavior. I'm talking about the behavioral, the maladaptive behaviors and the inability to manage one's emotions begins long before drinking and using even becomes a part of their life. That's the dysfunction. So just because the person gets sober for a period of time, they still don't have a clue how to live. They still don't know how to respond to a delayed gratification experience. They don't understand consistent responsibilities, being an accountable human being. They want quick fixes. We want it now. I need my problem solved. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Yes, yes, yes. And then anybody that tells me no is my enemy. And we learn how to manipulate that, and we can increase our level of intensity until the other person, mom or dad or whoever, finally says, okay, fine, just to get rid of us, right? The addict meaning. And there's the family cycle. That's the dysfunctional family cycle. And we get very detailed into that. I think pretty sure that's on our Facebook too. If anybody wants to look up that video, it'll be probably I don't know, how addiction affects the family or something like that. While I got a minute, don't be afraid to check out our website at justinslighthouse.com. justinslighthouse.com. And we're making some changes to it. We've never had a professional IT guy, so I do apologize. I personally do it, and it's way over my head. But the content is very powerful. Maybe it's not the fanciest looking thing in the world, but the content in there is unbelievable. I mean, every day a family calls and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you described my son on your welcome page. I don't know how y'all know this." And like I said earlier, it's not because we're gurus. We haven't reinvented the wheel. We're just one of you. We've been there. I've been you. If you're a family member wishing help for your addict loved one, I've been you. If you are the family member who is the addict and not going anywhere real fast, I've been you. I've been the brother of one who died. I've been the son of an alcoholic. And I've also been the founder and director of a very successful residential recovery program for 2 decades now. And man, have we seen some amazing miracles. It's crazy what God has done here. And we want this podcast to be encouraging. We want to give people hope, like Tina was talking about earlier. We really want to impact people's lives because you watch the news, it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. And I get, there's one element that the families can't control, and that is the addict's desire to seek help. But there are strategies to bring that about. The only reason the addict or an alcoholic won't accept help is because they don't have to accept help. And what I mean by that is, okay, if somebody, because if you didn't have to worry about paying rent or your mortgage payment, somebody else made your car payment, somebody else paid for the insurance on that car, somebody else is paying your cell phone bill, somebody else is paying for your food or your groceries and your fuel each month, somebody else is making your child support payment, somebody else is literally propping you up, and without them, you couldn't exist. And then someone says, hey, you wanna leave this comfy environment and go to where you got to do some work and make some changes? Well, of course the answer is going to be no. They got a sweet deal. I can just drink and use all day long. Why would I want to do that? And in fact, we deal with this regularly, but it happened very recently. A dad just crushed, and had set his son up very well. And of course, on the phone, he said, yeah, he was ready to pull the plug. And then he went over there and he talked to his son and he couldn't do it. Well, just know, and I know this sounds harsh, but just know they're probably going to die. And the last 10 years of my mom's life, after we buried my little brother, she said at least every week, I wish I'd told him no. I wish I'd told him no. Talking about my little brother who died from a drug overdose. I wish I'd told him no. Families are so afraid that their little baby, their adult child now, is going to feel uncomfortable. And a lot of that comes from a place of parenting out of guilt. Maybe you made a lot of mistakes when they were younger and you feel like you feel guilty, and so it's your responsibility to make sure they're taken care of. You're not taking care of them, you're killing them. That's not what that looks like. That's what it feels like for you as a family member, but that's not what taking care of someone actually looks like. That's what it looks like when you're trying to kill somebody slowly. Family, and this is why we include families in this process, because families are sick too. But let me just clear up the record, because I know a lot of families do feel it's their fault. He tossed me, whatever. We passed him back and forth between us and his mom's house, and then this and then that. There's all this stuff, and it really screwed him up, and that's why he uses, and we feel guilty. Wrong thinking. When the child was young, did you make some mistakes? Maybe. When the child was young, do you wish you'd have done some things differently? Maybe. And maybe the answer is an absolute yes. But if you want to get better, and you want your adult child to get better, this is the time. There's no time like the present. This is the time to stop all the nonsense and start dealing with this situation in a different way, a new way. And that's why you need direction from professionals. We'll take the heat. That's not uncommon. But here's the thing. Children crave structure and discipline. Think about that for a minute. Adults, humans do. That's human nature. We crave it. We need it. Our self-esteem is always in its highest when we're following a consistent course of action, right? Within parameters. We're accomplishing things on a daily basis. However small, however big, we're accomplishing things and it feels good. A person increases their own self-image because of it. That's not happening when the families are so codependent that they're literally allowing the person to exist, when they're taking care of everything for the person so that all they have to do is drink and use all day long, You think their self-esteem is high or you think it's low? Well, it's in the dumps. And that's why you hear so much shame. Well, what families get is what we call the shameful, shameless dynamic. So on one hand, you'll hear, I'm just a loser and you did this to me and I'm never going to amount to anything and, people won't hire me and nobody likes me. But then on the other hand, you hear the complete opposite extreme. I certainly don't need help. I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'll show them. And then the families, of course, don't know how to react to that. And so families get stuck in this crazy cycle. When what needs to happen is there's a third option. You need to get professionals involved and start, if you really want to save your adult child alcoholic's life, get professionals involved and do exactly what they instruct you to do. And everybody will get a new life. My mom died young because of the death of her son. There's no question about it. No doubt about it. She died of a broken heart because her son had died. I've also been associated with stories where parents died young, even though their adult child didn't die young, because maintaining their adult child into their 40s and 50s even was so exhausting and so draining that they finally just died. And of course, here they're thinking that they're taking care of their 40-year-old son. Well, once they died and there was no money left, now it's really bad. Now the alcoholic's going to die. Anyway, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. You've either lived these stories or you're really close to living these stories. And I'm here to tell you there is hope. I don't care how many rehabs you've been to. I don't care what stories you've heard about failure. Recovery is possible with anyone. Anyone. A lot of clinical therapists will tell you, well, the patient has to want it and they just didn't want it hard enough, or they just needed to, they should want it more. That's why they keep failing. Well, that's bull. That resistance, that initial resistance when an alcoholic or an addict is beginning a recovery process, which begins before they begin a recovery process. It begins when the families call and start asking for help, and we start advising, or somebody, some professional starts advising them, okay, well, here's what you need to do. Start with letting them know that you won't be paying rent next month. Start with letting them know you won't be making that car insurance payment next month. And you're not going to be making the cell phone payment next month. And you can give them 30 days or whatever, but you are no longer going to pay for them to die. And you can quote me on that. Son, daughter, we love you, and we're just no longer interested in supporting this what's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're not going to do it. What we will do, though, is we are willing to pay for something that will actually help you change. We're not going to pay for you to stay the same. And there you've done it. That's a very loving thing. You're probably going to get hung up on and yelled and screamed at, but you have to go through that. So be it. Well, we're sorry that you feel that way. And you know where to find us. Click. And then that's the end of it. But then you got to make your words have meaning. And that means when the 30-day time limit is up, or whatever time frame you come up with, when it's up, don't pay that rent. I don't care what the crisis is. I don't care, oh no, but you don't understand. I just got this job and I got to have internet. And it doesn't matter. You have to allow the addict, alcoholic, to experience the natural consequences of their own behavior. They're not your consequences to absorb. So stop absorbing them. That is the epitome of codependency. Is the alcoholic addict never gets the full brunt of their consequences, but the family will absorb all of it. And before you go, well, that's not true. I had to, Bobby had to sit in jail for 3 days. Okay, gee, poor Bobby. The alcoholic had to sit in jail for 3 days. Who paid for the lawyer? Oh, the parents did. Yeah, who paid the bond? The parents did. Whose house got put up for the bond? The parents' house. You see, the parents are absorbing the majority of those consequences. Okay, we got Draco the trauma dog back on set. Are we good?
Yeah.
We've had some storms here, and we're in Oklahoma City, and of course we're Tornado Alley. And the weather guys around here, they just love hyping it up. It's going to be thunderstorms everywhere, and we might even have, it's getting cold front moving in, where it's already been warm, and we're going to have some tornadoes. And I think it sprinkled for about 30 seconds about 4 hours ago. But there has been some thunder, and so our trauma dog's not doing so good. Okay, that's a whole lot, and we're glad to have you back on the mic.
Thanks. Sorry I had to leave.
Yeah, well, that's part of the fun of it.
Yep.
We're just shoot it raw, and something, we're talking about kind of the dynamics of our program, or you were earlier, and I think another element that really makes it easy to get better here. It's so comfortable to get better here because we don't have that separation between staff people and the residents, and create some sort of distinction, like you guys are the sick people and we're the healthy that's nonsense. We're just, yeah, of course we've got the information and we're the leaders and all that stuff, but we're also recovering addicts and alcoholics, and we're just members of the group. And we take every experience that we have here as it happens, and we don't try to block that. We don't try to hide that. Everything is out in the open. When someone's having a rough day, then it gets addressed.
Right.
Because like I was talking about earlier, the addict and alcoholic drinks and uses because they don't know how to handle life experiences. And so here in this program, it's really just a series of life experiences, obviously in a little safer, controlled environment. We don't push the envelope, and, we've got some parameters, but for the most part, it's everybody's just experiencing life throughout the day.
Right.
Whether, waking up in the morning and getting a shower every morning and learning how to eat breakfast, maybe even learning how to cook breakfast. You'd be amazed how many people don't know how to load a dishwasher, don't know how to clean a bathroom, don't know how to do laundry. Oh, they may do laundry, but they don't do it right. What was it the other? It's not unusual for us to walk into the laundry room and someone's doing laundry, and they've got like a pair of socks and a T-shirt on a 2-hour wash cycle. It's as much about life skills as it is not drinking and using, healing the trauma, learning how to connect socially, discovering. I always call it a journey of self-discovery. This time is about learning how to discover who you really are, because that guy or that girl, before they got here, that's you. That's who you think you are. The guy who can't hold down a job, is 40 years old and still living off of his parents, doesn't have a home, lives from couch to couch to couch. That's you? That's the real you? Well, no, of course not. That's not the real you. The real you has been lost a long time ago. But if you can get back to that guy, and something that I even like to add, a lot of us in our journey, we never really understood who we were in the first place. So the process of recovery is about learning who that is for the first time, learning who we are for the first time, and then life becomes amazing. I want to remind everybody our website is justinslighthouse.com. Please go there, read the content. We've got a blog, and I'm sorry I don't remember the address. It's on WordPress. You can find it probably under Dr. Miles Lewis or Recovery Ranger. Got some great articles on there. Our Facebook is under Miles K. Lewis. That's open to the public. You can check anything out.
What about their phone number?
And our phone number, and you can call us anytime you want, 405-248-2124. That's 405-248-2124. Or you can email us at dr.miles, that's Miles with an I, M-I-L-E-S, K, Lewis, L-E-W-I-S. That's Dr. Miles K. Lewis at gmail.com.
There you go.
We want to thank you all for listening or perhaps watching. We'll probably post this on some video platform also. And keep your eye out. We're going to try to do these on a more consistent basis. This one was just a little bit of background, but we'll get into some pretty deep topics as we move forward.
I look forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think everybody will really find it interesting, too.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
We are out.